ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is going to be a review for WWE Stomping Ground. I'm catching up on some things I haven't posted in a couple of weeks. Getting back to it, let's start this out. Pre-show, New Day on the panel. Not really big there. They're saying they're going to have a big night. You know, you've got Xavier and Big E versus KO, Sammy. You've got the Dolph Ziggler, Kofi fight. So, just kind of building up. Backstage Baron Corbin interview. Same thing. One thing I did like is they put Ricochet on the panel and they just had him talking. Ricochet, he really tries to bring like just who he is to the table. I do wish he was a little bit more animated with stuff, but it does bring a little bit of realism to it, so I kind of like that. He gets interrupted by Samoa Joe while he's on the panel, and I thought that was really cool how they did that. Samoa Joe on a monitor backstage somewhere, and just says, you know, basically he's gonna beat the brakes off of him. So you got that. Then you get Daniel Bryan, Eric Rowan backstage interview, and again, same thing, just building up their match. Shane O'Mac, Drew McIntyre, they had a bit where they were talking about Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. So really the only match they had on the pre-show, Cruiserweight Championship, Akira Tozawa, Drew Gulak, and Tony Nese being the champion. And it was a really good match, man. I think they had some really good spots, high octane. I really did enjoy this. I think it was a great way to set the tone for the pay-per-view, and it was a smart choice because it's an adrenaline match that gets people pumping, gets people into it, and really worked out well. At the end of the day, Drew Gulak becomes the new Cruiserweight Champion. I haven't watched a whole lot of 205 Live, honestly. I like the Cruiserweights. I think they work their asses off. I just haven't watched it, you know, no reason in particular. So the investment wasn't entirely there, but the way they performed in the ring, I don't know that it really mattered all that much, honestly. So, good match. Drew Gulak, great performer, obviously. So, I was, you know, happy enough with it. Then you get on to the main show. And since I'm behind and I'm catching up and I saw everybody talking about how good this pay-per-view was, I gotta say, I didn't really get that. I liked it. It definitely had some good moments. There were some things I did not care about in this pay-per-view at all. And I'll get into that. But I did not feel as highly as I think a lot of people did when they reviewed this pay-per-view. And maybe it was because I saw, you know, everybody talking about it, talking about how good it was, that maybe my expectations were a little higher. But I was definitely not as impressed as a lot of people. So, you get into the main pay-per-view. You start off right away with Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans, and I gotta tell you, man, Lacey, I'm just not a big fan of. There was definitely some crowd chants that were directed toward Lacey can't wrestle. So the match was what it was. I like Becky Lynch. I think she can carry a match. So it was okay. It wasn't great for me. At the end of the day, Becky Lynch, she hits a disarmer. Lacey Evans taps, and there you go. You get a really cool Mustafa Ali promo package after that. I really liked it. I don't know that it went anywhere, but it was really cool. I really liked it. Like I said, Ali's promo packages, it seems like he comes up with the ideas and runs with them, and he's allowed some creative freedom there, and it's working out really well. That's what I'm thinking anyway. I could be way off base, but I gotta believe he's got his own input into these promo packages because they're really cool. Backstage, you get Paul Heyman, Baron Corbin bit, and you know, Baron Corbin, of course, he's gonna beat Seth Rollins, and then he'll have to deal with Brock Lesnar or whatever. Who cares? Then you get Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens versus Xavier Woods and Big E. Really good match at points. I really did like this. There was one point where I think it was Xavier Woods. He got the haluva kick and then the pop-up power bomb, and it was one of those points where you knew the match was over, and of course it wasn't. And it was one of those really good sells. I really liked it. It was just a really, really good spot. Big E runs in, saves the pinfall, and it had a lot of good back and forth like that in this match, and so it was really fun for me to watch. At the end of the day, I was actually surprised, but glad that they gave it to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They got the win. Everything worked out. Nice. So, After that, you have Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. They have a little backstage bit, nothing big, talking about Bayley. And then you get the U.S. Championship match, Ricochet versus Samoa Joe. Another really good high octane match where you get, this was a really good clash of styles too, because Samoa Joe, he's a brawler that can be a high flyer, which is crazy because he's a big guy. And then Ricochet, you've got a pretty good mix of styles too, but he's predominantly high flyer. And so it was a really good match. Really, really liked it. And at the end of the day, Ricochet gets Samoa Joe. He wins the U.S. Championship, his first belt in WWE. I thought that was a very cool moment. And they made it a cool moment because he goes backstage and there's a whole bunch of wrestlers, including Triple H, who are congratulating him. And it was just really, it was made to be a moment for him. So that was cool. Then you get the WWE Tag Team Championship, Heavy Machinery versus Daniel Bryan, Eric Rowan. This is one of the matches I really didn't care for. I'm not a big fan of Heavy Machinery. I hate the gimmick, I'm going to be honest. I don't mind funny gimmicks if they're funny, but to me it's just stupid, honestly. It's just dumb. And what they bring to the table, I'm not a fan of that either. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Daniel Bryan. How can you not be? And I'm actually kind of a fan of Eric Rowan. For a guy his size, he can do some stuff. I am very, very happy that Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan won, though. So they get the win. That's all I care about. Then you got Alexa Bliss with Nikki Cross versus Bayley. And the short version of this is there's some exchanges between Nikki Cross and Bayley that kind of wind up distracting Alexa Bliss. Bayley gets the win. They're going to keep that going, building that story for a while. Then you get a 24/7 bit where they were talking about Drake Maverick winning the 24/7 championship from R-Truth, and then R-Truth going to Drake Maverick's wedding and pinning him there and taking the belt at the wedding, which was pretty funny. I've said that I think this was one of the highlights in WWE right now. Like, R-Truth is just greatness. He really is. He's incredibly funny. He comes up with this stuff, and it's R-Truth. Like, you can tell when it's a wrestler versus the writing. There's some really great stuff going on in there. So, good stuff. Didn't mind that at all. Then you get Drew McIntyre with Shane McMahon, of course, versus Roman Reigns. And this is the match where they bring Roman Reigns back as complete, untouchable, invincible Superman. The match itself, it was alright, honestly. Didn't do a whole lot for me. And the thing I think is funny is I've seen Drew McIntyre have matches that I thought were absolutely amazing. Like, the guy can move. He can fly. He's really technically sound in the ring. Like, I just don't get what they're doing with Drew McIntyre. Like, he's one of those guys I just look at and see has everything. Except for his promos are a little lackluster. I will say that, but yeah, this match did nothing for me. Roman Reigns wins, and I didn't care. WWE Championship, Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler in a steel cage. The steel cage really does nothing for me. It does nothing for the match, honestly. It really doesn't. You can't tell a story with a steel cage anymore. You just can't. Like, it's just there for prop. And a weak prop at that. So, Kofi and Dolph have had better matches than this already. And they've had better matches than this on, like, Raw and SmackDown. So, it was kind of a cool finish. Dolph Ziggler trying to go through the door. Kofi just dives through the ropes and hits the floor before Dolph. That was cool. But other than that, I don't know. They've had better matches. It was alright. So Kofi wins. He hits the floor first. There you go. Backstage, Drew McIntyre, Shane McMahon interview. Shane's pissed. He's going to, get Roman in a handicap match with Shane and Drew. Nobody cares. And then your last match of the night, Universal Championship, Baron Corbin versus Seth Rollins. I don't like Baron Corbin. He's not talented. He's not much of a personality. Like, I just don't get the whole thing. I don't understand it, and I don't, see how he's being pushed this much. But whatever. So you have Seth Rollins, who is absolutely incredible in the ring. getting stuck with this putz. And they bring Lacey Evans out as the guest referee. And of course, Lacey Evans would love to do anything to stick it to Seth Rollins, since now it's public knowledge that he and Becky Lynch are a couple, or supposedly a couple. I don't know. Could be publicity. Who cares? But either way, it's like, so Lacey Evans is doing everything she can to just cheat Seth Rollins out of the championship. She makes it a no disqualification, at what point Becky Lynch comes down, waylays Lacey Evans, and then Seth Rollins retains. And so that was the end of the show. It was pretty good. There was a lot of good stuff to it. There was a lot of stuff that I liked to it. The opening cruiserweight match was good. Becky Lynch, Lacey, whatever. Xavier Big E versus Sammy and Kevin I really liked. Ricochet Samoa Joe was really good. The Heavy Machinery match I just didn't care for. Bayley Alexa Bliss, it was alright. Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, I just wasn't the biggest fan of. So at the end of the day, you've got really cut in half. You got some really good matches. You got some really matches. I'm gonna give it. I think it was still above average. Like, I was definitely entertained throughout most of it. There were a couple of times where I started to kind of tune out a little bit, but overall, it was cool. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10. That's where I'm at. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz. Kaged Nation out.